You're good.
All right, the May 2024 meeting of the Board of Commissioners for the SWPRD Parks and Recreation District is called to order at 6:04. We have a quorum present. Is there anyone for public comment?
There is not.
Righty. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Has every commissioner had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes.
Are there any questions or changes to the minutes? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the regular meeting minutes of the April 2024. All of say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye. Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the minutes are approved. Moving on to the treasurer's report, please, Matt.
Okay, so a little bit of confusion, not confusion, but some explanatory statements in the treasury report just because of a deferred expense, capital expense. So we jumped quite a bit in favorability. So 227,000 favorable to budget at the end of April. It's cumulative. But there's a deferred capital expense for the mower that we budgeted in April. We did not spend it, but it will be spent, whether it's May or June or later in the year. So it's really only 50K, 52K favorable. So you'll see that if you click the revenue. So revenue is just on flat, 2K unfavorable, and then click to expense, and you'll see that deferred capital just caused us to jump in April to that high cumulative number. I'll show you one other thing. If you click on chart data and you look at, just go to revenue, the revenue section there, it's above. We're going. Blue part. Yeah, start right there. So you'll see a comment here in the ARC thing. So you see we measure like levy versus budget each month on a cumulative basis. So we were right on for January for the levy, but we were 4,000 positive favorable in February, and so on. We dropped 10,000 unfavorable, and so on. One of these lines is 0, and it's the ARC. And there's a comment in there, both in revenue, and if you scroll down to the expenses, same way, because the numbers are so, there you go. So same comment, that's 0. Because the expenses are up and down all over the place, they're going to net to 0 between the two of them. But in a given month or 2 or 3 month period, it can show us significantly favorable or unfavorable. And we're putting it here just to track it. But from the standpoint of understanding where we are relative to our budget, it shows an incorrect picture, and it can potentially cause us to make decisions one way or the other. So those are 0. So if you go back to the revenue chart. So you don't see an ARC thing there, so you can't actually see, because it would just skew it, so you wouldn't be able to see any kind of detail for programs or levy or anyway. So that's a conscious decision. So ARC is not on here. You can see what's happening if you look in the chart data, but from the standpoint of us making decisions on this and then on expenses, same thing. So you have that detail. But you can see we're 52K-ish actual favorable net of that deferred capital. And that's again back at expense. You can see that jumping out there, but that'll get spent.
I think that once we receive our bond proceeds and we put all of that in one spot and all of that work activity goes there, it'll make it skew our M&O a lot less.
Yeah. The other thing to note is we have this ongoing kind of reconciliation we're doing with Island County. Right now we show a difference between our numbers in Island County in M&O of roughly 23K. So, and we're just noting that, documenting it, trying to chase it to ground. But moving on, planning around investing, with that known discrepancy in mind. So that'll just be an ongoing dialogue. We try to get those numbers closer together as time passes, but right now it seems to be the nature of things.
So it can be attributed to them doing an error of keying in 2 transactions that total 23,000. They put it in the wrong year, or I'm not exactly sure what all they did. It was moving around a lot. It was payroll and retirement contribution. Anyways, so it's just changed the balances, but it should all be ours. Our books are correct.
The only other thing that I want to mention, just as a part of the lexicon here, is there's a new term that we've always had in the budget. We have this term beginning cash and ending cash, which is the money we end with to be able to fund operations in the ensuing couple of months. And we target, that's a ending cash target that allows us to start the new year from an operations and maintenance standpoint. When we're doing these conversations since the audit and the conversations going into the Standard & Poor's presentation that we're going to do here at the end of this month, right? They have a term called combined annual cash. Isn't that what they call it? Essentially what it is what is our cash reserve at any given time as a percent of our total expenses. So like, what is our ability to
Unrestricted cash.
Yeah, he called it combined annual cash, but just think of it as the concept of, we've got money that we've established in the 5-year budget as a capital reserve. We have other monies that are flowing in and out on repayments. We've got our actual reserve fund. They look at those as that's our cash bandwidth altogether. Yeah, altogether. So that terminology will become part of our lexicon once we get through this process. So just to make you aware of what that is and why it's there, where it came from. We sell ourselves short by just saying, here's our reserve cash, 300K or whatever, when we actually do have maybe 450K in available cash that improves our profile. So anyway, we're not actually moving those monies around, but we'll talk about it as one thing. So if no questions, we can look at the vouchers.
Again, I may put this in email, but we got this report really late from Island County yesterday. So the way Carrie got the information of Matt, and Matt turned this around for this meeting. I think the meetings that fall on the 15th, 16th next year, as we look at our calendar, we might have to look at some flexibility with us because it is tough to get all the information about it'll work. And let's look at some vouchers. So we emailed Krista's recommendation last month, the vouchers out today that were updated. There's a couple interesting ones that might kind of stick out. There's a couple refunds that are kind of odd, like you see the Ashley Boger 2023, and there's also a softball umpire invoice. Those were because the county contacted us and let us know that there was a couple checks that hadn't been cashed. So we had to void the checks and reissue them. So these were instructors or umpires from the last year or two that just didn't cash the check. So Island County had it on their books. They wanted to clear it off their books. And so we just voided the check and reissued it.
So they do the bank reconciliation? You don't?
Right. I never see their actual bank.
Okay.
They provide a report to me, but
We don't know the check that's cashed. If we give you a check, yeah. So,
Okay.
so
I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? Because okay. Yeah. All right. Got it.
and just if we didn't do this, if we didn't void it and pay it again, then it goes to that state.
Yep.
Collected
Yep.
checks or whatever. Yeah, so this kind of prevents that.
And then the Diamond Rentals, which is the porta potties, just an FYI, we have removed the porta potty from the elementary school across the street for the summer. Just because we're not scheduling that because it's not needed, so we'll bring it back in the fall and we start scheduling that again during the soccer season. But once we'll save a few months of rental and that. Other than that, with the vouchers, there wasn't anything to from the original ones you got that really stood out. Just normal purchase items.
Did I see uniforms on there or something?
Yes, you did. Maintenance uniforms, which would have been, I assume, for Jacob and for, some stuff for Jacob. That's what when I saw that, that's what I assumed.
Yeah, we bought shirts, sweatshirts.
Yeah, I don't care. I was just curious. Did you guys always have those? I think it's great.
Probably always.
Yeah. So saying you're just adding more.
Yeah, well, we got a new employee and I never bought any for chance.
Yeah.
Gotta make sure he stuck around.
And the speakers, how are they used? They're a bunch of outdoor speakers. Does that have to do with the concert?
So there was one speaker purchased.
Oh, there's a singular, okay, so it's a
Was it
portable,
yours? Yeah.
yeah, there's a single, like, portable speaker that, because we have the ballroom and fitness classes now, we needed something that was portable and could charge, that was Bluetooth capable for them to be able to have this stuff, but it'll come in handy also at events.
The other thing that stood out on this one too was the Amazon purchase for
Yeah.
doggy pot supplies, which is just a never ending supply of bags at the trails.
Yeah.
That was, anyways, that else really stood out to me on the vouchers. I think, any comments from any of the commissioners?
No, but thank you for providing it, and I did take the time to go through it on a bigger screen.
Well, it makes sense because we do kind of go through it fast on these kind of.
And the-
In the budget actual, we don't usually go too in detail with this, but some of these seem a little bit off. Like if you look at the aquatics line here, the 4.4264, looks like we're way under that swimming, but we're over now. It's just this just ended at the end of April. So these numbers will change drastically as we approach an actual summer programming completed. So I think Sky said we were already over the $30,000 mark. So swimming is pocket. Without about it though. Those are the highlights for the vouchers.
Any other questions? Our total should be 34,787.29. And then, that's right,
And you got the capital fund too.
and the 110, yeah. Okay, so if there are no questions, I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers in the amount of 34,787.29 from the M&O fund and $110.00 from the capital fund.
I'll second that.
I missed what you said in the capital map.
$110.00.
Right?
Yeah, that is our, the commissioning agent that we hired, as part of the pool project. I'm sure that's what that is. Right, they gave us
That's
that.
what one time is.
Yeah, that's what the one.
The other one sounded low, right?
Yeah, 30. It's not, it sounds really, everything.
Oh.
It sounds
Well,
very.
I'll be explaining the capital because that's easy. The commissioning agent who hasn't really gotten to work, but they did send us an initial bill for some of the administrative prep work they've done. So that's just part of the pool. Commissioning agent was what we hired for the pool. They sent us $100 initial invoice out of that. So that's the $100 one is easy. That's just.
Our vouchers are usually
You get
voucher.
well over 100,000.
Yeah, it's the
Why are we
30.
having it 34?
I thought it was like 99,
99,
98.
747.
That's what I thought it
Wrong.
was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, well, let's pull it back up again. Where is it? I'll amend my motion.
Sure.
So is 110 good? Is the 110 good? 99,747, hang on, hang on a
Yeah,
second.
there we go.
99,747. Okay. Okay, I will amend my motion to authorize voucher payment in amount of $99,747.91 from Maintenance and Operations Fund. And the $110.00 from the capital fund is unchanged.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the vouchers in the amount of $99,747.91 for the M&O fund and $110 for the capital fund. All those in favor, say aye.
Erica,
Matt, aye.
Krista, aye.
That one's just the vouchers, the check payments. Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. You guys have it and the vouchers are approved.
Hey, we get PowerPoints now?
Not yet.
Not yet, not yet. Moving on to the staff report.
Well, we'll start with recreation. I had a couple of highlights before we get to this guy's report. Chum Run has been moved, both location and date. Where it used to be a May event, last year was a September event due to the owl, I think. Was it the owl?
Yeah,
Yes.
So the Chum Run, the committee has agreed, decided to move it to a carbon. So it's going to be at Windjammer this year. Partly because of the amount, Hayak, who's the mothership here, they sponsor, a lot of the money goes to Oak Harbor. So they decided to mix it up. I don't think it was against us. I think it was just a change of venue. It's going to be September 14th. Am I saying that correctly? This guy is part of the committee, so if I'm saying something wrong.
yeah, no, I mean, the scholarship covers all of Island County and it's always down there, but we're pulling volunteers and people that can put it together. A lot of the times it was just solely me. They're all based out of the north end, so the idea was, well, let's see if we can move it around year to year, so it kind of, that's it is an Island scholarship. Yeah.
Great. Also, salmon run in the fall anyway, right?
It's a good point.
Yeah.
So September 14th is the big day, also the day of the Apple Cup, for those of you who care. We have got a seasonal recreation and special events coordinator position out that's open. First review of applications is the 24th. As just a reminder, this is the position where we had a seasonal park maintenance position in the budget, but with the addition of an extra park staff, Tom didn't need that as much, so we took those funds and decided Sky was doing all of these events, as he will get to in a minute, and you'll see how much he's doing. We're going to give him an extra body for the summer to help out, and will be a huge help for the huge events like triathlon and the Tuesday concerts in the park and things like that. And
Have
then,
you received any applications yet?
yes, yeah, we received 2 or 3 that I know of.
A couple already.
Yeah. And then starting tonight, as Krista alluded to, every 4 months, Sky is going to come back and do a recreation report, so you guys can know what's going on and coming up in recreation. We'll get to that in a couple minutes. Facilities and grounds, nothing new to report. It's just spring. Everything's going on in spring right now. It's busy, busy, busy. I will throw into this part too, just most of you might have heard that the phone out at the wind booth was stolen, unfortunately, right at Mother's Day weekend, where more people were prone to want to go out there and have a moment. But Susie Reynolds, the person she was on it, she had the phone ordered before we got open. So she's got a phone on order to replace it. There was an article in the paper about it already. So just a shame. It's not a valuable thing to steal. It's just kind of
He reached out to me tonight. They got a donated replacement already installed.
oh,
Oh,
good idea.
good.
So, I don't know, if someone should,
Good update.
yeah, there's a picture of, there's actually a Facebook page
Mhm.
you can follow of that, and
A dedicated Facebook page?
yeah, to the wind phone. Yeah, and so I joined it, and so that actually popped up today. It showed the people installing the new phone that were standing there. So, but then she sent me a text, and
That's awesome.
so anyway, that was like right before the meeting.
Good.
So there is a phone in there now.
Well, and she has just been so responsible and responsive to every issue. They had one of the stained glass windows broke, had a chip in it, like something had fallen through it. And before we had a chance to send her, they put plexiglass on both sides. So you can tell they're out there regularly, and they've been good stewards in that. So hopefully this is the last drama they have for a while. And it was director report. We've created a schedule for standard annual staff trainings. This is something our insurance company last year had asked us about, and we've got harassment trainings, cybersecurity trainings, diversity trainings, all the standard trainings that government or you go through. So we now have a schedule together for staff to do X amount of trainings every year or every 2 years, depending what the training is. They're all virtual. The insurance company provides these to us, which is nice. I've done most of them already because I wanted to check the quality. They're pretty good, about an hour long each one. So with busy staff, we'll kind of chop that in and start a schedule. But that's a nice addition. The Dakin property is still in the queue. Haven't been able to connect with them. Haven't heard back from my reach outs. So I'm not sure if they're busy or out of town, but they're the Dakin property that they were talking about wanting to discuss with us. We just haven't been able to connect. So we'll keep trying. Thanks to Matt, 2 grants were submitted by the May 1st deadline, one for the Land, Water, and Conservation Fund, one for the Washington Wildlife Migration Program. Matt, you want to speak on either of those? You did
Yeah, sure. Sorry for the false alarm on the meeting. There's the authorization form that we as a board need to sign to actually submit, but that's not due until what they call technical review, which is June 10th or something like that. So we have time to, or it's even later than that. Anyway, we have time to authorize that. So the trick with neither one of these grants is eligible for an indoor pool. So the trick was figuring out how to apply to both these grants to cover an indoor pool. So the Land and Water Conservation Fund it's federal money comes through the states. It allows expenditure on outdoor pools, except when they have what's called a cold climatic exemption. If the average temperature in the month of June in the location that you're building the pool in is less than 70 degrees, you can build an indoor pool. And the way they justify it is they say you'll provide a better public benefit, more of the public will benefit from it if it's sheltered. They call it sheltered, and it's outdoor. So we applied under that exemption. The limit of the program is $2 million per authorization, and our application was 1.91. Essentially, it was written around the second pool, the leisure pool, recreation pool, and then the match for it is the funds that we will from the bond that will pay for the lap pool. So those 2 pools can't fund other things like offices and locker rooms and stuff like that, but you can't fund the actual pools themselves. Like they say you can put it in a building, but you can't fund the building with the grant. So it's the grant for the applications for the second pool. The match is for the lap pool, first pool. Total is 4 million roughly. And the grant we asked for 1.9. And we say we'll match with 1.9 from the bond. So that was the maximum there. The WWRP local parks doesn't allow funding in any way for an indoor pool, but they do allow funding for things around the facility. And the 2 big categories we had were trails, because we have the loop trail around the building to pay for, and parking. So the 2 of those things total roughly 800,000. So our application that was 406,000 to cover maximum we could get within the auspices of the WWRP local parks, and it would fund the trail around the quarter-mile trail that's out. It used to be inside and now it's outside, and the parking lot and associated sidewalks and stuff.
What is that one?
WWRP local parks. So like I said, both of them allow you to spend money on outdoor pools, but not indoor pools. But the LWCF was the one that Port Angeles got successfully as using this same exemption. They're the first pool to ever get funded under that program in 2018. And then local parks, you just don't get it except for an outdoor pool. But if you get creative, then apply. So we'll see. Let's see how it goes.
Could the one that covers parking cover the purchase of property that would be used for parking.
If there was an acquisition, you can do it as a combined, they have development, acquisition projects, development projects. This is applied for as a development project, but if we had to buy another piece of property. Yes,
You have the taken property that.
yes,
More parking.
yeah, potentially. Mhm.
Made that clear, not cut down.
I thought one of the things you put in that WWRP grant, that was really, you reference, or no, I'm sorry, the LWCF, and reference Port Angeles, not very smartly. I thought letting them know that, hey, there's presidents here. And,
Well,
I thought the way you tied that in was very subtle, but it's like, oh.
One of the things that they want you to say is that you know what you're doing. Like you as a staff, as a district, like they ask questions about credibility. You have to submit status of kind of the environmental review, CEPA, and NEPA, all that. So they ask you who you have that has any expertise. And so, I talk about the expertise that the staff has. In fact, we have ARC working for us. We have David also that we have a mentor in this Port Angeles projects who went through this entire thing just across the water 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So anyway, so hopefully that they know this because they're the same board that approved that money in 2018. So hopefully get some, and the best thing about referencing Port Angeles is that the state spent the money and there's 1,000 people that they use in that place 7 days a week. So it was effective, like use of state funds. That's it. So on that.
All right, I'll get the last few out. We have signed an agreement with the school district to move our offices across the street, starting September 1st. So the month of September, we'll keep our offices here, just transition over there over the course of the month. Price is pretty much almost identical to what we're paying here. So that's nice. It'll be, basically it's 2 classrooms with a partition down the middle. So it's a large space. We're gonna need to buy a little bit of furniture, some partitions and stuff for desks, but overall, it's the easiest answer. It's a simple answer. It's an economically good one for us. So that is done. We'll get that. The only thing we're left is if we don't do our custodial, if we do our custodial in-house, it'd save about $500 a month. So that actually could end up being cheaper to be across the street. And as part of this, Tom and his crew have agreed to take that front little section under their care, the same way they took the property here under their care. So it's a bit of a trade-off. We do it here, we'll do it there.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're moving towards whole school district.
Yeah,
Pretty
that's
soon.
it. That's
That just,
Smart.
Are we going to incur any moving costs?
Yes, we have 10,000 in the budget for moving costs. I'm sure at some point, our backs aren't gonna want to move all of the extremely heavy stuff, so we can bring in some,
So
Yeah.
backbreakers?
yeah, backbreakers make sense, someone like that,
So it just,
yes.
personally vouch for them. We need to spend numerous times if when you're near and they're just.
Yeah, we use them in our surrounding facility too.
Yes, you've done today.
Yeah, Jeff. But I think someone like that, we're gonna need, and we're gonna need to buy some, obviously, some furniture and things like that. We're trying to be, we have a meeting in a week or two as a staff to talk about this, because you want to think about 3 years from now, or 2 years from now, too. You want to think about the next move, and we buy stuff that will carry over, not just stuff that's temporary. So, but school district's been very easy to work with on this. Appreciate how easy they made it. So I think it'll be a good move. Keep us in the neighborhood. Sky and I met with Heidi Walter from the auditor's office. As part of our financial audit, we were made aware that the state provides a free cybersecurity checkup, which is about a 1-month process. Sky and I had our first meeting with the gentleman the other day, an hour and a half. We're having another one this upcoming week where they're just gonna give us, we're gonna tell them how we do things. They're gonna give us input on, where some potential challenges are. So we'll report back once we have a full answer on that, but it's a nice resource. I'm doing a presentation tomorrow night at the Whitby West Side Rotary, talking about everything we're going to do. I'm sure the questions will circle around a certain aquatic facility, but looking forward to that. I'm going out to bid this. We actually have gone out to bid now for the overlay sports complex. That's in this year's budget. Want to get that done in August before the soccer season kicks up again. So that's going to do the entire parking lot. It's going to fix the entrance from the gate to the Langley Road where It's got the tests and challenges. And then we also just put an extra bit in there, an alternative option to do another portion of the maintenance shop, just to see where we come in. It'll probably come in over that, but, so we probably won't do that, but if the bid comes in low, we wanted the option of maybe getting Tom's shop a little closer to completion. So that is out to bid for the next couple of weeks. I'm sure by the June meeting, we'll have some details for you guys to look at.
Is that, so you said that's the 192? 192K in August? We got a big capital month in August, almost 200,000. That's what that is.
Probably. Yeah, that would be, because I think we have 130 in the overlay.
Okay.
So we have
There's a,
It would either be that or also the pickleball project in the capital.
which should be heating up by then. We'll be getting bills by then too, so.
okay.
And last but not least, on the director report, last month we talked about the policy manual and the hope was to have sections 5 and 6 for you guys to review starting tonight, but we're not there yet. It's on next month. Just want to get it done well. And then, please note that next month's meeting is on Tuesday. Because of Juneteenth, so. Tuesday, next month. So. Now, I've been talking so much. And once I built anticipation for our special speaker. This guy done. In our recreational.
Summer 2024 programs. So the purpose of this is just to keep you in notice of everything that we have going on program wise. And a few times a year, the 3 times we chose are kind of the times where we're gearing up for different seasons, be it the fall, be it winter basketball and all that stuff. But summer's the big one, so cruise on. Youth Sports, Challenger Sports International Soccer Camp. That's one where they send British soccer coaches. I think they got some Brazilian ones this year. Last year, I get rave reviews from people that attend that one. They're very well trained. The blokes are here for a week. If anybody ever wants to host one for a week, they're always looking for us. We've done them one time, usually every August, but this year I reached out about the first week after school was out, just because we didn't have a lot sports camp wise. And it's a longer camp, so it works well for parents to kind of double it up as their childcare and kids getting some good healthy activities. The Future Falcon Basketball Camp, which is run through the high school boys basketball team, so the funds for that help their program. Skyhawks Camp, we do 3 different sessions of 3 age groups, and they're multi-sports camps, ages 4 through 12, I think is what it encompasses. We also have a track and field camp, which is very popular, and then we used to do a cheer camp. The 2 poor 19-year-old boys that got tasked with trying to teach that to a large group of girls, it didn't go too well, so we switched that one to a flag football camp, which again last year was well attended. Tennis camp, we used to have Carol Kramer doing it. Now we have Tim Stanford, who's been a nice addition because he's now helping with some of our pickleball classes. He's a certified pickleball instructor, and I think he also does tennis lessons, sometimes for useless pay. So with that, there's 4 different sessions, 3 different age groups. Volley Kids Camp last year was the first time we did an indoor and an outdoor one. The outdoor one, we used just one of the outfields, usually in August. That one's ages 5 through 12. Admirals basketball is the former high school coach, Kevin Tempest, who's reached out to me because he's really trying to work hard to build year-round basketball opportunities for kids instead of just the small time span that we're given a lot of the time from where we're fitting in between sports from from January through March. So he's doing 5 weeks of 2 days a week, just offering up just working on basketball skills and a little scrimmaging. Levo Sports, Levo's done some futsal camps with us. They're a local company. Brian Ebling's the person that runs that. They ran one camp last year, wonderfully successful. I think they had like 85 people signing up through that one. So he's doing another one this year, where he's doing a full one in August, and then he's doing a short one that July 4th week when he knows that usually there's a lot of kids in town visiting grandparents, and parents are always looking for something to happen. And then wrestling, they're going to be doing some clinics, but I haven't received the information on that. Swim lessons, 3 2-week sessions. We used to have 4, but Chrissy Eager, the person that's the lead on this, she takes vacation now. She's been teaching. I know she's been teaching up in Bellingham this last year. So she cut it from 4 weeks to 4 sessions to 3 sessions. We have 18 classes per session, 7 swim levels offered. For the most part, we're probably like 90 to 93% capacity right now, and most of what is left is all at the very high-end swim lessons. With the island kayaking, they have their paddle sport camp, and then 2 new camps where they're focusing more on the teams. There's the kayak camp and the paddleboard camp for teams. One of those you have, I can't remember which one, is on the July 4th week.
It's the kayak.
The kayak camp, which again, same thing, like we have so many people that come into town and they're usually asking like, what can we do around that time? But we haven't had a lot of people that have been offering things during those weeks. So it's really nice to have something, again, when kids are here for a week, to be able to experience the finer ins and outs of Woodgate Island and what we have to offer. Skim School, they're offering that 2 times, and along with that, they also do a skim board painting workshop. So they do that in the doghouse, and then I think that one's June 19th. So you paint it, it usually takes 4 to 6 weeks for them to cure. So if you're doing the first camp, yeah, your board's not going to be ready. But the idea is that the second camp, for anybody that signs up for that, they head on out to Max Walton Beach. We have a rowing clinic that I think is about full now. We did one of those last year, and they do that out in Holt Harbor, unless it's a little bit choppy, and then they head over to Lone Lake, but they're usually big like 4-man rowing crews. Youth sailing, beginner and intermediate, very popular, lots of phone calls in advance for those.
Where are they holding that?
So with the youth sailing, what they do is they do their first initial meetup just at Deer Lake.
Okay.
And then they tell everybody, here's where we're going to be having the camp, so all the parents and everybody knows, and then they sail over, and it's just to the left of the church camp.
Okay.
Is where they store the boats for the week. It's that be okay for now to use that.
Okay, good for them. Okay.
And then adult sailing, 3 beginner sessions. They do that one on Lone Lake. And then new this year for the first time, they're doing an intro laser sailing for anybody that wants to sail faster. Our other youth camps, we have J.R. Russell. He's doing 2 magic camps for 2 different, he's basically doing 2 in one day, one for a younger age group, one for an older age group. In years past, he'd offered 2 separate weekly camps, but only one ended up usually running. So this time he's just trying to save himself the trip from Oak Harbor each time. And then Atlanta Steam, which does the underwater robotics, which you maybe read about, that compete in national, international competitions. She is super pumped for us to have a pool sometime in the future here, for specifically to be able to have them test run and even maybe host an event. And then she's also going to be doing some 3D printing with Tinkercad or Launch. And then lastly, we have Whidbey Watershed Stewards are offering 2 nature camps. One of them's at the outdoor classroom. It's for the younger age group. And then this year, for the first time, they've got an environmental learning center that's at the South Whidbey Community Center. And then they've also got the okay from Port Oak South Whidbey to use the Langley Marina for some of what they're doing now. Adult programs. Ballroom dance starts in June. Be on Saturdays. Each month will be a different dance. June's will be merengue. Terry taught me that the dance called cha-cha is actually known as the cha-cha-cha everywhere else in the world except here. With those, she originally was going to do $30 per class, but after speaking it over with her now, you can just choose if you want to take the lessons for an entire month. And then the pricing will be based on how many Saturdays though. So for the first month of June, there's 5 Saturdays, so she's doing $100 per person if anybody wants to learn any of the different ballroom dances. But she has we have listed all the different dances up through December, I think. So if somebody wants to learn a particular East Coast, West Coast swing, cha-cha, any of that, they're out there for it. And then the group dance fitness, which started May 1st, she's doing that Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 to 10. With punch cards available for that one. And it's slowly building, but it's much more lucrative for her to work with us as opposed to through some of the health clubs, just because we do that 80-20 split. So she's got a good core of people that she knows. And hopefully as time evolves, some of the people that live in Langley maybe will realize, hey, this is a little easier if I can just go to the community center and do one of these classes. And then inquiries about if they could do, if their evening classes could be offered. The current instructor has 5 school age kids, so no. But if you guys know anybody that would be interested in offering evening ones, the demand is there. Sorry, just can't hire your wife, sorry. Co-ed softball, we'll be kicking in middle of June. Last year we had 8 teams, so that's what we're hoping to have around this year. For the most part, they usually lollygag and wait till about the day before they have to register before anybody gets to us. But games on Wednesdays and Fridays. We do a tournament in August. It's usually championships on a Saturday. Pickleball during the summer will be at around 10 sessions a week. We don't do anything on the weekends. Woodby Island Pickleball with Barry, he has his own groups that he has on weekends, so we try not to cross over with any of those. Field classes, that's where Tim Sanford comes in. He has been offering intermediate classes. We've had a demand for people that have been playing for a while but wanted to work on their skills. So the first one started maybe 2 weeks ago, sold out in like a day. He's got another one, a defensive blocking one that's coming up in June for a couple Saturdays. So he's the reception I've received from the players is that it's very helpful because from the cognitive standpoint, they all know their little skills, but they don't actually how they're trying to think and strategize and place themselves throughout the game. So it's I can say like over the last 2 years, the skill level of pickleball players, they're good. They've really elevated and advanced themselves. So it just keeps kind of creating. We have a new intro class that'll be starting in June also. So we kind of get some new players coming in. The Pickle Barn that's in Freeland, I think, has created some new players for us. So it's a strong community. Volleyball, I have 2 times a week, but we're actually going to over the summer make that 1 time a week. Our Sunday evening ones are getting well attended once the weather gets better. So we'll just be having Thursday nights. Adult sailing, which I told you about, there's still spots on that. They have 2 separate weekend classes in June, and then if somebody wanted to do a Monday through Thursday class, they also have that. I'm working with somebody with adult basketball. There's a group in Coopville that reached out because they're not going to be able to use their gym over the summer, but they have a group that has a weekly pickup game, and we're hoping that they can do something through us. So I'm nailing down a time with them. And then intro to disc golf, I can tell you, will be Tuesday, June 18th, which is when we have the next board meeting, but 5:30 to 7:30, we're just taking all the fields. The Woodby Island Disc Golf Group reached out, said they would do a free session. They would bring discs and more baskets, and we're just going to set up all 4 fields out there, and they're going to do a free 2-hour intro for
Which side? On which side?
Sports complex. Events, concerts in the park. We moved them to Tuesdays so that you guys can come now.
Thank you.
July 30th, Dr. Savage, local group of artists that kind of funk R&B bands. One Drop Island is going to be kind of a Hawaiian ska reggae band. And then Moonlight Swing Orchestra, which play the classics of the big band era. Woodby Island Triathlon, Saturday, July 20th. Our registration's right about the same as where it was the last 2 years. So we're about halfway full, and that's usually where we are right about mid-May. And then as time gets closer, I think everybody starts realizing, okay, I can make this, then they start signing up for it. Chum Run, you mentioned earlier, moving to North Woodby, tentatively scheduled for September 14th. That was it.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
And I hope you probably do know this. This isn't normal to have the amount of stuff that gets put out here through the summer. The quantity of programming is mind-blowing. The amount of variety and things like this is not done in most places. So kudos.
Mostly the aquatic stuff we're doing too. That's really cool. That's just awesome.
It's an impressive load of programming. So
One of the things that's come up in the conversations with this state about the whole project is water safety. And so all those things feed into, kayak class, sailing class, rowing class, swim lessons, like all those things help. A kid who gets invited to go crabbing out on the boat, friend's boat on a Saturday kind of thing. More likely that if something happens, they fall in the water, that they'll be okay.
I want to get this into the schools as much as possible. And then granted, parents are receiving it. I know it's there, but still, if you're a middle school kid, you're not reading about this. But it would be cool to get it in every PE class as things to do in the summer. I will connect with you. And make that happen.
Yeah, and if you can get it, like, if we can break it down by ages too, just to simplify some of it, because we do have a bit more of like the teen offerings, because I get, we don't have much for kids that are under the age of 4. And we have some stuff for teenagers, but there really hasn't been a whole lot. Like camp wise, usually they're ending about 12 years old, because there's a lot of kids in middle school that, they feel like they're too old to sometimes go to camp, but parents are still trying to figure out, like, how am I going to get you out of the house and doing something over the summer here?
And again, it's really that's it, Sky. There's a lot of kids that would do this, and they might push their parents. So it might be the other way around. Granted, there's parents that want their kids involved in this stuff, but many times the parents aren't receptive to this. But Billy wants to do it, just doesn't know it's available. So that's why I say that. I think it's a good opportunity. There is a lot there, and that's really cool.
I realized I did omit July 13th is the LM basketball tournament. Louis was a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. So
Louis Muniz.
Louis Muniz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Or Louis, as we call him on the court.
Louis is his dad. It's Louis, if you're gonna go that route.
and we've got lots of the printed catalogs out now. They weren't available last month, and we barely missed. Right, the board meeting just came a little bit before they came out. But if you've got places you want to take them, we've got plenty to share. So. Yeah. Any other questions for Scott?
Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. Back to you.
Moving on to committee and community meeting reports. Anyone? Is anyone curious about what's going on the corner that we decided to pass on? Would
Sure.
it be an appropriate time to
Sure.
throw that in there? So I don't know if you noticed, but mid-July-ish, a new sign went up that it was for sale, and now they're sporting a sold sign on it. And so just to recap, this came on our radar in May last year. It came on the market at $1,890,000. They did a couple of price reductions and went off the market in November at $1,650,000. It came back on in April at $1,590,000. On May 6th, it went what we call pending inspection, which means someone wrote purchase and sale agreement on it, negotiated terms. And now this week it went pending, which means the buyer has satisfied all of their due diligence and their inspection contingencies, and they're proceeding to closing. So I should have a closed sale price for you and more information in June.
This is all.
As for the whole.
It's all 46 acres.
Yeah. Can someone fill me in on the Daikin?
Taken property.
They can,
Yeah.
We haven't heard anything.
We reached out to them a couple times and they're just, I think they're still interested. They just haven't been responding to the messages of anything. So I don't know if they're just
Okay.
out of town or if they're attracted, but they made it clear they just weren't in a hurry. They're not doing anything rash. So I don't think they're doing anything quickly on this. So there's some time.
So Brian, with policy stuff.
Mhm.
I know we just talked a couple weeks ago after the new neighbor with the horse came in and was asking about horse use in the park and that
Mhm.
type of thing.
Who's the new neighbor?
He was a neighbor, lives close to the sports complex, was asking about riding her horse on the trails. Which. That was to clean up.
Yeah, so Brian didn't know that currently is allowed. She wants to bring in a cart.
Is this not the same person?
Is this the same person?
No, it's different.
Yeah, it's different.
So
So,
So for the last few years, I mean, we have a hard policy on horses in the park. To me, when the park opened, it was great because it was more rural, wasn't as busy. There were a lot of kids that were riding their horses into the park. Number one place they came from was the corner property. They were actually boarding horses and there was a lot of horse use here. My concern is the new person is going to want to do the same thing
I mean, the new owner of.
on the corner.
Yeah, there's.
But that's not the person who's riding the.
No. But as we're talking about policy, like I was talking with Brian, my feeling is in today's world, this is not a great place for horses. Crossland Trails is a great place for horses. And so it may be something as we're moving into our policy manual, we look at, I'm sorry, with the amount of dogs and e-bikes and frisbees and all the sports and everything that's going on. Maybe it's time that we designate this as a equestrian park and that one as an equestrian. It just concerns me that that property on the corner sets up perfectly for someone to board horses and if you run horse camps, who knows? And boy, we're gonna ride right over on the end of the park. And so it's just something to think about with our policies that we look at mixed use. What's appropriate in today's world.
I've seen, the only horse I've seen have been coming down on this far side of Maxwell. Like headed for either like whatever that road is, the gravel road that goes back across Rabbit Run and all that.
Yeah.
Seemed like that's where they were going, not coming this way, but like I said, I've seen them maybe 5 or 6 times in the last 2-3 months.
Yeah, it's definitely dropped off since that property's been vacated. And once summer hits, people will trailer in. There's one person that has a mini horse with like a little trailer. They'll be looking around the park in the summer times. But it's more than you guys think.
Yeah, last year I headed out and 2 times I remember students on horses coming right outside the high school. There's, up to the park. I was pretty ahead if they were coming this way.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just, policy talk. I've been praying that the right person buys that corner property that doesn't want to come in here with horses every day.
It'll be into like mini bikes and mopeds.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm really hoping.
When's the last time they were boarding them there though? Cause this.
Before the runners were moving
Okay,
out.
so it's
Before it went for sale.
been 7, 8 years ago.
No, this was just a little over a year ago. Oh, yeah.
We haven't seen that traffic, horse traffic in the park
Since,
3 years ago. No, like 3 years ago.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. A lot of times for a cross-country race, we have to do the last sweep to get all that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the guy who came with the laminated pictures and all that, but like that was just, it seemed like a one-off. And I mean, I've only seen horse in the park a couple of times.
It's more than you.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, just bringing it up.
Any other committee or community meeting reports?
Well, I shared and listened to a presentation. It was hosted by the Snow Isle Library. And it was an author who was presenting on disabled hikers. This is somebody who's based over in the Olympic Peninsula. They started this group, Disabled Hikers, and that has grown. And she's now written 2 books. There was one, The Disabled Hiker's Guide to Washington and Oregon, and just coming out now, The California Guide. And the talk, which was, including questions, about an hour, is going to be posted to the YouTube channel for Snow Isle Library, so everybody can watch it. I think my takeaway from that was that it might be worth looking at our facilities through that lens. And with that, the information that we share about our facilities on our website, as well as maybe taking a look at the signage or communication at our facilities. And I think that overall, the district has done a very good job, and we have the ADA trail. However, there were still some specifics, some things that were different to me, and I think might be valuable. So that's all.
Is it like adapting, finding trails, facilities, properties that were suitable for people with
Right.
certain disabilities, or was it?
So first of all, she takes a lot more wholesale aspect to it, in that there were people with different disabilities. So perhaps some are using arm crutches, whereas others are using sport wheelchairs, like a little bit of everything. So things like elevation and material and things like that. Like, we say that we have this ADA loop and this is how long it is, but that's kind of it. There's no more information than that. And that was kind of their point. Like, there is not a whole lot of information, and that you can go and find, oh, this is an easy trail, great for families. And you get there and it's a staircase. Like, easy to who?
Yeah, so if you had, so I think, yeah, now I think I get it. Like, if you said in our listing on Maxwell Trails, we give enough characteristics that you can
Right.
read it and say, yeah, I can handle that in a sport
Right.
wheelchair, or I can't handle that.
Exactly. Providing the information so that people can decide if that's appropriate for themselves.
Yeah,
It's not that we have to necessarily change anything, but just do a better job of communicating about what that is, again, through that lens.
And that's what those guidebooks are that you're talking about, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it could be a part of that.
Well, what she did is basically just find some that worked, and they're all different levels. And of course, there are a number on the Olympic Peninsula, because that's where she's based. Tried really hard to find at least some that were fairly close to Seattle and Bellevue, so that they would be accessible to an urban audience. And that there's nothing in Island County. I think there was maybe one, maybe two up in the San Juans. So it's not exhaustive. It's just,
Well, but she wrote the book because there isn't that.
there's
information.
nothing, right,
But so
exactly.
if we just at a baseline, just upgraded, had some portion of every trails property where you could click and get the full detail of a disabled hiker's guide to Maxwell Trails, to Moody Park, to
Right, right.
Housement Trails. And it says, yeah, we have this ADA loop, and then the rest of the properties like this, there's some steep areas here, there's all crushed rock, or it's all,
I mean, creating more opportunities that are accessible, that's a whole other topic, right? And there should be more than that, and we should definitely look for those opportunities. But this was really about just doing a better job of communicating what we have.
Do they have a standard? Does she have a standard that, like, when you pull up, we have like a placard that said,
Yeah, there were certain, there isn't like a seal of whatever. But again, it's more about the information. What is it made of? Grading, flat for X and then a 10% incline, those kinds of specifics.
I tried getting on the video yesterday, because I wanted to watch it, but the last time they had updated a video on the YouTube page was like 2 or 3 months ago, so I'm hoping that they.
Hopefully get a little faster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it is an interesting topic.
Yeah, or we could just, through the library, request a copy of the book and at least get a sense of what the specifics are. And
Could you broadcast the link when it does go?
Yeah. I'll keep looking for it.
I'll mention something from the Aquatic Recreation Center. So we talked a couple months ago about the that solar plus storage grant from Commerce. So we got the contract signed. But now we have that $100,000 of money, but plus for design, we now have access to, and that can be spent to design the system. The other thing I told you is that last update was that the thing that had not been really fleshed out from a number standpoint, I thought was the battery storage component. The grant is called Solar Plus Storage to give you a resilient power system. So power goes out at this building. If we have solar panel on the roof and we have a battery storage system in the parking lot, we can ride through it. But they hadn't really done the math on how much the battery storage systems cost. Like to give you, a $200,000 system gives you minutes. It does give you 3 days with power. I mean, the trees, knocking the lines down kind of thing. So, and then we have this conversation with this advocacy organization, Kicking Gas, that's on SWPRD, that wants to get rid of, natural gas fueled power sources like generators, and met with them a couple of times, and they are advocating for not having a generator, fossil power generator in this facility. We went back to the state Commerce and said, how do we resolve this? And the state came out and said, well, you're right. We've learned that the battery systems are way more expensive, and we recommend you get a propane fire generator for your building. So I communicated that back to the Kicking Gas guys and just said, hey, state's even telling us that the future state, and I think I mentioned last time, is that the kind of the industry. I talked to the guys at a couple different generator companies, Mitsubishi and what the other guy's name, the compressor guys, Atlas Copco, and future state that they're all thinking about is hydrogen powered generator, which the emissions are water. But right now, there's the cost of this hydrogen storage infrastructure is so high because it's got to be at 10,000 PSI storage. So just to store enough to run for 3 days might cost $4 or $5 million. Generator costs 200,000. So natural gas infrastructure and H2 infrastructure is still too pricey, but it's a future state. So, and the footprint and the generator itself is only roughly the same price as a fossil fuel power generator, a couple $100,000. So, and it's about the same size. So, future state, and that's what I told Keith Gas, that future state is, 10 years from now, that it becomes affordable, we can seek a grant at that time to take out the propane generator, put in an H2 generator or whatever, becomes more technically feasible at that time. So, they want to meet again to talk, so I'm going to talk to them again face to face about it. But just so you're aware, the state came back and gave us this advice. So the design work that they're going to do ultimately when we get started again with ARC is the solar panel on the roof, battery system, because the grant will fund it, but a battery system that's only minutes worth of storage to ride through just a dip, and to store power, like, to use it to get us off the grid at the most expensive time or something like that. And then a generator set after, with roughly the fuel required to run for 5 days is about 4,000 gallons. So storage for that amount of liquid propane. So anyway, I want to close up on that because that conversation will continue, I'm sure.
The other entity that is very much looking at hydrogen is Island Transit,
Okay.
because they're trying to, go to hybrid and electric. But a number of the runs are just too long, like over to Camino. There's not charges into the hall. So they've identified that hydrogen is going to be what would work for them, but.
Yeah, like I said, it's, 300 bar is super high pressure and it's daunting to stick in the back of a truck or a bus. Much less,
Sounds like a bomb.
yeah. I mean, they're doing big pilot projects, Kenilworth, like Packard, it's got HD powered diesels. Tractors running, and like it really is, if they could figure out the technology, the future is ubiquitous, and the effluent is H2O. So like if you can sort of solve it in a year, 5 years, 10 years. But right now it's just a little tricky. Anyway.
Right. Shall we move on to unfinished business and the comprehensive plan programs?
Sure, just a few quick updates. Reached out again to the Department of Fish and Wildlife, trying to get a Deer Lake update. Last month they told us that they had to go through a SEPA review, and that sounded like it was going to be lengthy. Our contact there unfortunately sent me the update and then said I'm going to be gone for 2 or 3 weeks, so I wasn't able to clarify some of what he was saying. But he said it's now going through the hydraulic project approval process, which is where we started. That's like the basic organization. That's the process that needs to approve. And again, we're talking about removing the concrete and removing the game plank. That's the two things we're asking them to do. So it sounded quicker, but he wasn't able to give me a timeline. He said basically he'd be back in 2 to 3 weeks, and then he would put it towards the top of this list to reach out to me with an update. We also got another call this week unrelated about Lone Lake and an issue out there in the lake about Tom saw it. So maybe Tom could explain what he saw. A gentleman called about it. I mean, Tom said he hadn't seen out there before, so it was
Yeah, there's quite a bit of erosion going on. When you get a good south wind all winter long, how's the shoreline pretty bad. And so right before we took over that, maintaining that property, county came in and they chip sealed. It was just dirt, gravelly dirt loop going down to Lone Lake. And they came in, they just did a quick chip seal. Well, that chip seal now all the way around the top edge of the concrete ribbons is disappearing. It's washing out. So now you kind of got a hole going towards the concrete ribbons, which are falling apart. But they've said they were going to come out and replace at some point. So that launch is getting worse by the day. And to the right of that, there's a little area where the boats generally kind of come in. You know, it's kind of like a little pea gravel beach, we'll call it. Well, right there, it's been washing out, and now there's a round concrete old post that is exposed, and there's about that much steel sticking out of the top of it. And so I'm standing there and I'm looking, you know, I got the description of where it was. And I'm looking and I look down, and it's probably that far underneath the water. So a boat's gonna come in.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so literally, I mean, I'm standing, well, it's right there, but it's in the water, underwater.
Who knows how deep it is? I mean, how well it's.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, 18 inches,
Uh,
but it's an old steel square post that broke off. But never seen it. It's just erosion has just exposed it. So I'm sitting here going, well, water's edge, where we stop. In the old days, probably would have got a scoop of nice clean wash sand and dumped over it, cover it up. But
Did you get pictures?
So back to the Department of Fish and Wildlife, because kind of their dock, and we assume that was their pool. And so, yeah, what you hate to do is people call us because we answer the phone, and you hate to be the person saying go there. And at the same time, we have no authority to go and take out the concrete or the game plank or this post. And so you're saying, hey, as a citizen, I would here's your contact information. We can send pictures, we can send information. So anyways, so there's a couple lake things that was.
Can we ask a question about that? So doesn't the MOU we signed with the lake, with Fish and Wildlife say, we are the stewards of it, basically, and rounding it off, we're the stewards of it. At the end of this time period, if we end up giving it back to the state, right, we just gotta put it back like we got it. So during the time that we have it, does the MOU, again, this is really 60,000 foot view, doesn't the MOU say, like, we could take that post out as long as we put it back by the time we give it back to those guys?
we can't.
And I say that to say,
You get into the water, it's no longer our agreement. That's the other thing, it's complicated.
so that it does not go beyond the water line.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the MOU has some gray area in it. It as far as changing permanent things, that's where it gets a little bit like, it's unfortunately complicated when we're talking about basic safety things, both Deer Lake and Lone Lake now. It's like, these are not like aesthetic preferences. These are other issues. So we'll keep pounding that. Just an update on that. Campground, can start percolating as soon as things, anyways. Met with Austin Hoofnagel up there. He's the same person from planning who also is doing our pool. So it's the same staff person for both projects, which is nice. Highlights from the meeting. He said one of the things that's confusing them is they have 3 different site plans from us over the years. It's been 9 years. He said it'd be nice to have one updated one. He said that once he has one updated site plan, he can create a to-do list, another, hopefully what would be a final to-do list of what would be needed to get the permits. He also emphasized that the permits are good for 5 years with possible extensions. But, if you don't have funding for the project, he goes, they want to see, shovels in the ground by the time. So I looped Jake and Krista, the campground committee, into this. We're going to meet June 10th to kind of talk about different options and things. But appreciate Austin strikes me as a go-getter. I think, he's been there for a while at the county. I think he's a good ally in this. So, and he has read, before he met with me, he insisted on going back and reading the 6-7 years of history. And so he really came understanding some of the communication challenges and frustrations, which I appreciate. So that was good. We'll report back next month after me, Krista, and Jake meet.
But do we really have 3 site plans?
Yeah, he sent it to me. Yeah. So we'll update that one.
Are they just incremental over the years then?
I didn't look great detail of them. He sent them to me and I printed them and put them in a pile to look at once we meet. So, pickleball is percolating. Land survey results were received. The company we're dealing with now is working on initial conceptual plans, also working on initial cost estimates. We'll bring those to us and then we'll set the public meeting, which I'm hoping is in about a month. Pickleball community is very excited to input.
Today, what venue are we gonna use for that meeting?
We're gonna use the community center. We're gonna use the gym. We're gonna pull out the bleachers.
We could have a record.
Yeah, we're gonna pull out the bleachers and let people talk. So that's gonna be a good meeting. And then just we're talking about,
On that note, I thought about this when we were talking about the overlay a while back, and I think this is when Doug was here, but we talked about septic issues, bathroom issues, as we get the pickleball courts in,
Yeah.
people playing in it.
Yeah.
It's just something that somebody's gonna bring up at one of these meetings as well, and I think it's justifiable. Yeah.
we did that with the soccer. I know that's in the updated soccer policies we're looking at is you guys gotta moderate the groups that are coming in because of the septic.
Well, we'll have, so the court, 6 courts are gonna hold a maximum of 24 people at one time, right?
Yeah, maybe some-
Right, so then put
I think it's
another,
the rotation.
yeah, okay,
through.
so put another, so say there's 50 people. Right, so compare that to like, you know, the soccer club day, right? They're coming with about that same size group, right? So we consider like morning soccer with 2 or 3 teams.
Yeah.
And pickleball, they're about that size. It's not like there's 200 people.
And Monday through Friday when soccer's not happening, yeah, that won't be an issue because most of your pickleball players, I imagine, are gonna be more prone in the morning, especially in the summer when it gets hot. But yeah, there's all the
I
discussion.
guess my point behind that is just prudent planning, thinking ahead with numbers and development, you know, whether it's an extension of a septic and or improvement of what we already have. I just don't know if that's something we've really talked or thought about much.
Yeah,
If we were having septic issues just with soccer, well, you know.
And we've alleviated that by controlling how many teams are able to be there at one time. That's gonna be the same thing with this. I mean, you're talking a lot of different usage. You know, from what I see, when the weather cleans up and it's nice enough, they're out there all day long. You know, and I don't think you get quite the play later in the evening when, you know, 5, 6 o'clock when all the kids start showing.
Yeah, that's probably a good point.
So I mean, it's gonna be busier throughout the day,
Yeah,
but it's spread out more.
Yeah.
I think, you know, there's still may be some issues but Fridays are always wide open.
There we go. We'll play some Friday. But yeah, those are good discussion points. Those are things as we get into the details of this project over the next few months. Then just we'll talk more about the aquatic recreation center in a bit, but one of the things I just wanted to throw out to the group, because I said I would, we were approached by someone from the foundation. They're looking at fundraising to help support scholarships and other things for the pool. And they were asking about incentives that they can offer as a perk to people that make monthly donations. So one of the things that they had thrown out was the idea of a pre-tour, allowing the people that make monthly donations to have kind of a behind the scenes tour before we open, which I can see us doing that with many different stakeholder groups. So that seemed very reasonable. So I said yes to that. The other issue they threw out was the idea of a pre-swim, where people that make monthly donations get access to go swimming before the pool actually opens. And that I had more trouble with because I think how you define, people that were at Bayview, having the tables, people that were, there's so many different people that have contributed to this project. I think trying to get people special in before, I think the Pandora's box we don't want to open. But I did say I would throw it out to the board. So right now it's a settled issue unless someone wants to debate it a little bit.
Do you mean before opening the facility to the community, or do you mean before opening on a daily?
Before opening to the community.
Okay.
So if we open the pool on the 15th of the month, it would be something on the 10th.
I mean, maybe you do like, there's gotta be some testing of the pool, right? Like,
Beta testers?
yeah, essentially, right? I mean, you wanna see like, how's it all working out? Like, right? So I would bet that there's a window and I don't know, but I bet there's a window in the timeline for like 2-month period where there's water in it, not ready for the public to come in yet because locker rooms aren't finished or because the check-in desk isn't ready or whatever. But somebody wants to test the pool. They're like, who's going to swim? They're looking for Sky or Carrie or somebody, come there and
the
like,
lifeguard on deck.
Right,
that-
yeah,
that's
the lifeguard,
like-
but then I'm also thinking,
Yeah,
how does that work with the county? I mean, is there an equivalent for an occupancy permit?
Oh, sure.
it's a good point.
Sure.
Right.
Also.
I would just say, my personal feeling is that the idea, I think, is a good idea. We want to foster, like,
Anything to get.
just as a general point, not about, there's one part maybe that doesn't work out, but the tour before, like, and I could envision, like, this, like, last time I talked to Representative Paul, he wants to come and be here at certain key milestones. So like, ribbon cutting and when the concrete slab gets poured and when, whatever, just to check in and maybe maybe we do that, those two things together. Like we say, foundation, hey, Representative Paul is going to be here for an hour in the morning. And, we're also we're going to make a simultaneous event because he'd probably appreciate that too. His ability to, thank
because it
people.
was
Sure.
a donor event
Yes.
rather than maybe, this sounds more like a steady stream of people getting their private swim in.
No, I like the event. I like
An
like that.
event
I could open it
for
up.
donors, for key donors, people, specific people that the foundation wants to thank. Also for the people who were out at Bayview and
All the volunteers.
all the volunteers, I think some
Yeah.
sort of, before it is open up to the general community, there should be a thank you.
That's great. Great.
Event.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. That was just, FYI. That is it for the comprehensive planning reports. Let me get the fun stuff.
Right, authorization for ARC.
So here's, it seems like every time I do these memos by Friday, there's so many things percolating right now, things change. So I'm just gonna try to explain where we are in the process. Right now, the updated schedule sent last week by Jim Nelson from DA Davino projects that we should get the $15 million bond payment around mid-July. That's not a firm date, but as we're getting closer, things are kind of falling in place. I feel a little bit more comfortable with his projections. So the question becomes for the board, are we close enough that we feel comfortable putting the ARC back to work? That's question one. And then after we decide that, if the decision is yes, we're comfortable, we're close enough that, remembering that whenever we get a bill, we got 90 days to pay it. So if ARC went back to work tomorrow, we get a bill in June and we would have till September to pay it. And so there's cushion. I do the math right now. So question number one is, are we comfortable putting them back to work? Question number two is, if we put them back to work, do we put them back to work remaining in DB, which they've technically completed as far as their funds go, or do we allow them to go to CD with the understanding that we have to do an ad service for the remaining design work? The JACC still has input to give. There's still issues that are unresolved in the design. So either way, Paul from ARC said it's 6 of one, half dozen of another. If you think cost to stay in DD or go to CD, it's going to be the same timeline. It's not going to impact the timeline. The issue that they're having from his side is that he's got to contract people and finance people in their office. And what they're saying is right now they have capped out at the DD funds. What we've agreed to in our contract, there was a dollar amount in there and they hit that. So for them to stay in DD, there would need to be some authorization from the board saying, yes, we're going to authorize X amount of dollars to allow you to stay here. But the chicken and the egg issue here is that he can't give me a firm quote because he doesn't exactly know all of the issues that the JACC wants to vet. So he needs to meet with them or hear, there needs to be some communication there. So it's like, how do you get that without this? So two questions. First question is, does the board feel comfortable putting them back to work? My personal feeling is I think we're close enough at this point that it would be pretty catastrophic. Something would have to happen that I don't see happening for us not to. As Matt said, a couple weeks from now, we're doing the bond ratings, which is kind of the last big obstacle from our side to get through to.
If you look at the costs, roughly monthly costs is running about 30,000 if they're working with most of the team. Is that true?
No.
It's closer to 100.
Yeah.
So, with all the subs and everything else.
Yeah, from like, yeah, anywhere from 3,000 to 125. It's very,
Do you have an idea as to when the JACC is?
Well, we got, if we go to CD, this is where it gets kind of convoluted, and it's not our issue, it's really kind of the way ARC has to do it from. They have people they're responsible to in their finance and legal departments too. If you go to CD, then for our contract, we've authorized all this money for CD, which means they go back to work. So ARC then would say, well, let's meet with the JACC. Let's just meet together. Let's crank out the list. Here are the things that you guys want us to vet. We'll get you a price, which we can bring back to the board, say this is an ad service. And then we'll just go from there. There's only so much they can do without this design work finished. There's stuff they can do, but really there's a clog in the dam, which is this design work needs, it impacts everything else. So rather than we stay in DD or go to CD, that's the work that's kind of the priority to kind of set everything else in motion.
Well, yeah, we had said it, right, as a board, we've authorized them to go to the end of CD. Or, sorry, the end of DD up to the amount that we had received in the capital fund. So there's no, so the problem is we got there, but because they finished the drawings for that phase right at the bitter end and then ran out of money. There was not time for there to be any more money, for there to be any feedback into that to come to a final set. They issued them and said, here it is, we're done. So the trade-off is there's the risk reward of like, this next phase is when they start doing schematics and actual drawings to go to hand to the general contractor, talk to the general contractor. And so, at that point, when someone starts working on a schematic, it's from a final set of design drawings, right? So the act of leaving that ED phase, in their mind, that the natural flow into CD is they just run, right? But we are saying, well, no, we want you to make these changes, and there's 20 or something changes that we want to make. So, the running part, I was telling Brian, like worst case scenario is, 2 months from now, they've been running on schematics and we say, oh, okay, we're ready to make this change, or whatever, at the generator. And they say, well, hang on a second. We already did all these drawings. So now we're going to need another 20,000 to redo those construction drawings. So that's my inclination, my personal inclination to stay in DD is to say, we don't want anybody doing any schematics for stuff that might change, like the doors on the outside is one of the changes. And we have in the design, there's garage doors. We went to Port Angeles and the director said, that's the worst thing you could possibly put in this building. We've been ripping those things out because they fail way before their, design lifetime should be. So pick another door. So, but that's change because that's what's in the DD drawing set is those doors. So, anyway, so that, if we head up into CD, they're going to draw some draw actual drawings with those doors in them. And then we come back and say, and in the end, we decided we wanted accordion style door or something different. And now those drawings have to be redone. So, but the biggest point is we gave them a limit and they got to that limit and they're stopped. So to me, that fundamental question that Brian said, a restart is if we said, okay, we are willing to take on a risk of repayment with the bonds of $100,000 or $200,000 or $500,000, that will be repaid by the bond if the bond sequence goes as planned. It's sometime in the end of July. So well within the 90 days. But, we've never done this before and who knows, we get told to stop, but the S&P guys say, well, no, you need to do this, and that, or whatever happens. We could be incurring, but the risk is we incur whatever we decide we want to risk, 100,000, 200,000. and have to get that money from somewhere else while we're sorting out whatever it is that's slowing the bond down. So I think to me, it's what we heard from DA Davidson and we've heard from Pacifica. I think it's very likely that by that September window, the bond proceeds are going to be at the county for us to.
Hopefully, in the July,
Yeah.
but you're thinking worst case with us and
I'm thinking worst, yeah, like worst case. So I think I've convinced myself that risk is, for me, is acceptable up to some certain amount of money. And, to me, that's why I was asking about the monthly rate. When we looked at when Rich Wachkowicki, who's on the JAC, is the only person on the JAC who has any experience. He ran an engineering firm designing facilities, chemical process facilities. So he understands this estimating and CD and DD and all those things. He's the only one who has any practical experience in that. And his estimate for the design work to put these changes into place was around $30,000 of ARC time, just additional time to make these changes. That's not in there. It wasn't in their budget. So anyway, so I think, if we said 50K or 100K, that would very likely pay for the work they need to do to make those changes. And I think it feels like that's an acceptable risk.
And I think it's valuable. When you say like those 20 changes, I'm just reflecting on what those are. And to me, it seems like we're close.
Oh yeah.
We're really close.
The biggest one, and you mentioned it, Brian, is Snohomish. We went to Snohomish and visited with the Bellevue group, and the Snohomish place is the gold standard for cost recovery. They recover 97% of cost. So they only supplement, the M&O supplement to run that place in its school district is 3% of their budget. Oak Harbor runs at 50% recovery, so they supplement half. And the fundamental thing that's different about Snohomish is that they have more space inside the building to accommodate groups who are doing stuff. They host Coast Guard, they host swim teams from all over Snohomish County. They do 75 events inside the building every year, swim meets and other things. And what's different about that place, if you look at other places around here, is they just have, instead of a 8-foot deck, which is what the state says, they have a 12-foot deck or a 10-foot deck. So they can put another set of kids, parents on the deck inside the building. So that's the biggest potential change is ours is squeezed as to the state guidelines. So it's tight inside the building. The ceilings, the rafters are on 10-foot centers, I think they are. So when we had this guy came in, one of the local builders came in to talk to us about these changes a couple weeks ago. He looked at it and said, you would just expand by one more, the building's this long, you would go 10 more feet, which 10 feet by 100 feet is, $1 million in square footage cost, kind of thing. So that's the biggest fundamental change. The doors are one of them, but to get the building bigger as a way to get more cost recovery potential and reduce that M&O burden on the taxpayer now to the end of time. So, to go back and change that down the road is impossible, right? Once they've done that, set that footprint, you're never going to get that back. So that's to me, that's the biggest conversation. I think, like I said, that's in that $30,000 kind of range for them to do the work to evaluate that. Tell us how much it really is going to cost. Is it really feasible? Is it just a question of going 10 feet in that direction, towards the phase 2 part? So like I said, my personal feeling is to say, yeah, I think we can incur the risk of up to some amount that we all agree is within our own risk tolerance, 100,000 or 50,000 or whatever. And then my feeling is keep them in and say, hey, we've authorized an additional $100,000. We're going to stay in the ED phase until you get a set of drawings that we know are 100% good. We as a board and district agree that's what we want.
And I think it would help to understand, before we hit pause, there was a back and forth between the JACC and ARC with a list, an updated list, which included some of the things Matt's talking about. And they had sent back a color-coded sheet of easy, not easy, and that's kind of where we left off. And the JACC had not had a chance to really input that to that. Because at the end of the day, at some point, I think it's going to be really hard for people that have been so involved in the details. We're going to have to hand this baton off and say we're done. And we're not there yet. And I think that's what we're understanding. But there's so many potential details. I think what ARC wants to know is where the goal line is. If the goal line is 6 months down the line, because we want to do a lot more vetting, okay, if the goal line is just this last list that we gave them with the pool deck and the doors and some of the other questions that we had, I think that's where the two sides have to come together and have conversation and see if we really are, because I think we can get through DD. I think staying in DD is fine. ARC's made that clear that it's really no difference as far as price or timeline, but they need authorization of funds to do it, as Matt said. So
And I would agree, Brian. I agree with Matt. I don't feel like we're there to move on.
So it's a good point about the timeline. So we're in May, right? We say the bond funds are in July, or say it's 1 August, right? So that's 2 months and a couple weeks, right? So if they're funded during that time, it feels like they could get that done. Get the changes evaluated, get to a final set by the time we have bond proceeds to do anything.
it is a safer choice because we're giving them this much, not saying you have the whole CD to spend. It is a safer choice.
Well, but my point was it's bounded in time. And the time we say the deadline is when the bond proceeds are available. So we want you guys to work up to X amount of dollars. And that work's that deadline date, the finish line is July 16th.
Well, so if I'm understanding you correctly, that sounds great. As far as giving ARC a deadline, financial and time, right? But who's prodding JACC to meet so that we
well, so once
get
our back on the clock, then if we say they're back on the clock, then we meet with them
And they won't meet until we.
right away.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So we say
My question.
we say they're back on the clock because when they were on the clock, we were meeting all together.
Okay,
So
thank you.
they come back on the clock and we say, let's meet, Monday night kind of thing. And then,
So it's money that's holding us up because we've capped out on our contract for the DD.
Their finance contract people are saying, you don't have authority to keep working because you've hit the number.
and like I said, what we did is they gave us the last thing they did with no money to spend was they said, okay, I said, you got to tell us something about it. We proposed, they gave us the 100% drawing set. And we said, okay, it's the first time we saw it. And we started walking around, went to Port Angeles, talked to people, had a public meeting. And we came up with these things. Well, we really want to change these few things. And they said, well, we got no more money to talk about changes. And our question back to them was, can you at least tell us if some of these are really hard or really, that was a color red, green, blue. So that was the last. So now then, because we didn't have ARC to spend, that's what this Rich SWPRD did is looked at that list and said, here's my estimate of how much it would take.
So that Rich is the one who said 30.
Yeah, so we've got that spreadsheet. So it would be, if we say they're back on the clock up to a certain limit, and here's the deadline, then that brings that group back together with them. To reconnect with this thing that we've been working on, but they haven't because there's no money for them to do it.
All right, so if Rich's stab is 30, so then do we do a 1.5 buffer and say 45?
I would probably even go I'd go higher because we don't, Rich is looking at it, but we don't know.
But from
Up to-
how far
I
back,
would-
right, with his experience?
Yeah, no, it's an educated guess. I'm not saying it's not an educated guess.
But I would hate to have to come back in a month because we're doing this again. And I would suggest doing maybe double or triple the number.
Right, well, they bill, their average billing rate is probably 200 an hour
Yeah,
for people. So what's the math work out? What is $50,000 get us in?
Yeah, well, I mean, ARC, when they're fully going with subs and everything else, like I said, $100,000 invoice in a month.
Yeah, so at 250 an hour, it's 200 hours. 50,000 gets us 200 hours of work. Right? So that's between now and the next meeting. How many hours we got between now and the next meeting?
It's multiple people, right? So.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking about person hours, right? So.
Are they looking at it that way though, because they've got a team?
So that's five, yeah, so that's 5 person weeks, right? So 2.5 with 2 people working on it. A week and a quarter with 4 people working on it. So we wanted to get, so that's 50K.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to me, it feels like more like 100.
I'll give you a cushion. It's up to, it's not, doesn't mean it's.
Up to, right?
Yeah, so it might be 30. Rich might be right on the dog, and that's great. It just keeps it.
Yeah, but what he didn't account for was them, like, just starting back up. Like, just for them to sit for a week and pull the drawings back up because they've been doing the project, right? There's probably, there's 20 hours in that, there's 30 hours in that kind of thing.
I think 100's a good number.
So can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah.
So, so I remember at one point when we did the pause that Paul indicated that starting again, and we don't want to stop again.
Correct.
So he wouldn't count this as starting and stopping
No.
again, right?
No, we're starting him up to finish the stage that he's at.
And then we would go right into, once that was done. Right, then
We could
go
open the CD pretty quick. Yeah.
With and timing, like I said, I think the timing is trigger going into CD is that day that the bond, at our next meeting after the bond proceeds are available to be.
Or even, I mean, even after the next meeting, we're gonna have a pretty, after the end of this month, we're gonna have a very clear idea.
Once we get through the bond rating stuff.
It's our July meeting after the 16th of the board.
It is the 16th. Right? No. It's the 16th of Wednesday.
Let me see what it is.
4th is the Thursday, 17th is the 18th.
I
So,
would say, can we
17.
Can we do something like authorize now, set a dollar amount, but also set a start date?
Any start date? What?
Like we authorize up to $100,000. You start,
We'll start tomorrow.
Today.
but that's what I'm saying. We don't necessarily want them to start today. Can we say, please start in 2 weeks?
But we need them to make a JACC. I think we need them to start as soon as we get JAC together.
To be able to meet with them as a group.
So that's my, but can JACC meet in the next 2 weeks if need
We've been
be?
waiting.
And
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, but we're not necessarily flowing right into CD.
We're not doing
That's
CD.
gonna be another.
That's off the date. That's gonna have to be brought back.
Okay, so just a couple more questions. So say this cost 50,000. So this is both an additional cost of that, above the 27 million, we'll say. I'd like to kind of have an idea of where that's gonna come from. And then I would also, I want things to go slow because I'm nervous about the bond and such, but there is the matter of escalation that we've discussed and going back into DD and revisiting all of this kind of prolongs that.
so two things. So your first point, what ARC told us when they stopped. And so they gave us again. It seemed really strange when they did, but at the end of the first drawing set we got in DD, they said, "Here, we're done." Right. And then when we said, we need to look at them and there might be some things we want to do different. They said, there's budget for that in CD. So we have that in the CD timeline and in the cost projection for CD, we have a round of changes because we don't give you any time to change them in DD phase. And we're like, well, why didn't you put that back in the DD phase? So there is budget in the 27 million for a round of changes. I don't know what that is, but it can't be anything much different from this because that was how they presented it to us was you get the drawing set, you guys have changes you want to make, and then we have time we spend doing those changes in CD. So my guess is that that's net zero. The escalation thing, if no one's familiar, people aren't familiar with that term, is if you look at their budget for the 27 million, they say, this is what the cost estimate is if you build it today. You're not going to finish, you're going to be building it at 24, 25, 26, and costs are going to change over that time. So they built in an escalation for that entire timeline in the current cost. What changes is if the end date slides to the right.
Right.
So if, the current opening date, something like October of 2026, if that becomes December of 2026, there's 2 more months of escalated costs that we miss. So it's that the end date is critical for escalation. That's all, that's
Right.
it. So we've incurred this delay because from February to July. So we are going to be dealing with that. They've told us, they've given us kind of, it's not going to be a 1-for-1 delay, but there's going to be some delay. So we've already incurred that and we're going to be fighting to work to get that back.
And I'm just thinking if we're going, I mean, maybe this process would have happened anyways, but if we go back DD, we're extending it further.
Yeah, not, like I said, what they told us, and again, this is our first rodeo, what they told us is that's planned, that's already planned in CD. If you just take that activity and put it in CD, those hours were already there, that timeline was already there. I can't tell you for 100% sure if it's a 1-for-1, but it can't be that far off. Like
I'm just always gonna be looking at, anything over 27 million, where's that coming from?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot
In
of.
addition to a new levy.
So this would be an ad service. We're not asking ARC to amend the contract. So even though there might be a savings in CD, without ARC's agreement, we can't amend the because one of the things ARC threw out to me was transferring money from CD to DD, and again, their numbers. It's all numbers that we signed in the contract that said we're allocating up to this amount in each of the 3 stages. So in the overall picture, I would consider this an ad service, and we're just going to add.
And we should, as part of that negotiation, they should pull costs out of CD because they told us those hours were sitting in CD. And
The CD price should come down.
Yes.
Linearly.
And maybe it's not dollar for dollar, but it's got to be close.
So what we can do tonight, if you choose, is to authorize the funding as an ad service to DD to get everyone back to work. It does control the budget from a bond perspective. If something blows up, which again, I can't see a scenario where it blows up, and if it did, we only authorized X amount versus if we authorize CD, we'd be authorizing a much higher number. So I think it's a safer move. Protects the interests of the district. Gets it back to work. And
I think to me that 100,000 level is a balance between getting them up to not stop again and then have to be restarted at the same time, not taking us too far into risk. Not having one of the bond taking longer to do. But you just said the meeting, our July meeting is on the 17th. Yeah. So if this timeline works, we can say our goal is to start CD on the 17th of July.
Yeah, that's a good thing for me to emphasize with Paul that we don't want to drag this on.
Well, and it also helps us not let that 16th date slip. We got this meeting, all the meetings are scheduled right now.
Yeah.
And so as soon as we're done with the presentation, we can drive Civica, we could drive Davidson, we got to make the 16th.
Yeah, it's those dates keep fluctuating, but as I said, we get closer to it. Seems like it's the fluctuations minimizing now. So hopefully we're in good shape. Okay.
Are you comfortable with a motion for $100,000?
I am now.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to authorize an additional $100,000 in design expense to ARC to complete changes in the DD phase.
I will second that motion.
All right, if you have 1 second.
Did you say up to 100,000?
Yeah, okay.
Yes, you just say up to.
Yeah, not to
Not
exceed.
to exceed.
To an additional.
Yes, but this way, I make sure. Someone asked that didn't answer your comment.
Is it redundant, Matt, to say design changes in the DD phase? Because it's a DD design.
Yeah,
It's being specific about
it's true, because
phase.
the only authorization we've given them is to go to the end of DD.
Which is design development, is that what that?
Yeah, that's phase 2. Schematic design was phase 1, DD is phase 2, design development. CD construction drawings is 3, 4 is construction.
What did we say? ARC and their subcontractors?
Something so, because we pay ARC.
Yeah, we just,
Same.
yes.
I think all the ones in the past have been just ARC.
Yeah.
Would you like to read that back from that? Okay, Matt has intentions.
Sure. Make a motion to authorize ARC up to an additional $100,000 to complete design changes in the design development phase.
Or you second it? Or
I did.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize ARC up to an additional $100,000 to complete design changes in the design development phase. All those in favor say aye.
Krista, I.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes.
Okay, two quick alibis. So, the solar thing, so that whole thing is outside the 27 million, right? So that the solar array, the battery storage, the, electrical controls associated with it and the generator are all part of the grant request phase 2, or they call it part 2 grant, or they call it track 2 grant to the Department of Commerce. So we're going to submit a grant. It's roughly 500,000, something like that, on top of 27 million. So that's one. People ask that question. Asterisk part of that is one of the things that will provide more resilience is more generating power on the roof. This Washington State, I've learned, is the worst place to put a solar panel on anything in the world, almost, because it's sun angle and cloud cover. We get 48% out of a array, out of a square, whatever of array. So 100 kilowatt is the generating size that we have in the building right now, which is 1/2 of the roof. We get 50 kilowatts out of it on a perfect day. So one of the things that the Kick and Gas people said is you can get an authorization. If you go above 100 kilowatts, you get classified as a utility. And life becomes really difficult for us in operations because we have to do all these extra reporting and billing and other things with the PUD. So, or with whatever, Houston Energy. But it will waiver you up to 200 kilowatts because we only get half of the output. So we could put the array on both sides of the roof. And instead of running, we could run a more significant portion of the load. The building itself, just running without the pools with, say we have an extended power outage, is roughly 125 kilowatts steady state. So if you got a 200 kilowatt array on the roof and everything's perfect and you get 48% out of it, we can run 100 out of the 125 that the building's going to need. We can almost run the building off the array if the sun's out during the day. So just think of it in those terms. So But again, so we may end up being able to ask for, to submit that to the state to put 200 kilowatts of array and cover the entire roof, essentially close to it. Because PSC will give you a waiver because it's such a bad place to put solar on things. So anyway, it's outside the 27 million and we might end up with a bigger solar. That's one of the parts of the.
Is that more expensive though, because you're doing the panels?
Yeah. It's another, so it's roughly, the current quote is roughly somewhere between $1.25 and $2.50 a watt. And this is 100,000 watts. So. Anyway, but that money is subject to the grant request, so it's not in the 27 million. If it goes up another 100,000 for the extra array, that goes into the grant request, which doesn't add to 27 million. If the state says no, then we got to find some other money for it. And the last part is we have $100,000 extra. Confusing because we just authorized 100,000. We have 100,000 from the state in design money for ARC for the solar plus storage that is now authorized. ARC already, the way that grant request was laid out is we said they got to do a concept design for the system. Like what's it going to be? It's got a solar array, it's got a battery, and then public meetings, talk about it. And then a more final design. And then at the end of DD, like actual layout, this is how big it is, this is how big this is, this is how big this is. So some of that work ARC's already done because we had public meetings, we talked about solar storage, they took notes. So we have another, and then part of it is work that they're going to do in this next phase. So we have some bandwidth from that ARC already billed to us and assigned to something else, like a line that says electrical services. It's actually money that come from this grant. So we got to work that detail out, but I would guess we have about another 50,000 in bandwidth from that grant that they already billed us that we can now give them additional room. They can spend that now because they already spent it and billed it.
So we've already been reimbursed for it.
We've been reimbursed from it from the state capital award. And now, technically, because we just didn't have the contract yet from Commerce, and there's that as a retroactivity clause in it. So anyway, I think there's probably another 50,000 in ARC, and we need to kind of work through that and make sure, over the next couple of weeks. But I think they could also spend back 50K. And then they're gonna spend another 50K in the next phase from that state money that we just got.
We are building a beautiful, very expensive, complicated facility that's going to come together. But as Matt said, we're learning, and I think all of this is coming together. It's step by step, and we're getting there step by step. And I think tonight was a good step forward.
Right. Prepared to move on to new business?
Yep.
All right, let's walk on policy updates.
Well, I think things get simpler as we move on to the agenda. Last month, you had a draft of sections 1, 2, 3, and 4 with some updates, proposed updates for the district policy manual. Feedback has been positive and minimal. There's only been one change since the draft you saw last month, which is highlighted in the memo. We added a section on staff training, stating that staff are required to go through regular trainings on issues related to safety, ethics, and the workplace. It's a little bit of what we talked about earlier. This makes our insurance company happy. It's also good to have as a written rule. The director or his or her designee will maintain a spreadsheet of the trainings and record when the staff have completed the trainings. So I've got an Excel sheet with all the trainings that are required. When staff finish them, you get a little certificate, and I will update the sheet. So that's the only significant change that has happened since the last time you saw it. So the question, I would look for a motion to approve it, barring any discussion or feedback or concerns.
Where does the training come from?
The insurance company.
Okay.
Again, they have like 150 trainings. We've obviously not doing all of them. But we picked out the ones that are relative to a general workforce. There's also site-specific trainings like working outside in the heat, things like that, that could be plucked out from common and staff and become irrelevant.
Is there a portion of these that are for a new employee, gotta go through all these before they start, or all these in their first 2 months, or?
There's like a child abuse one, which like if we had a kid program, we would have them do in the first couple months. But right now the staff grid has general trainings based on where you work. Like if you work with kids, you'll do the child abuse one. Everyone does the harassment, everyone does the diversity, everyone uses a computer, will do the cybersecurity. So they kind of broke it down by sections. So when a new employee comes on, we'll get them on the grid. So
Schools are just the same thing, multitudes, depending on where you're at and what your position is.
Tom said he does that.
It's yearly, it's annual.
Yeah, so it's smart to put it in the manual, so it's an official requirement, not just, it's so easy to get busy and to not do this, but it's important. There's important topics on there that protect the interest of the district and people. Jeffrey, do you have something? Hand is up.
So looking at 4.21 salary administration.
Okay.
And I have Jake in my head, but I just want to clarify. So it was changed from employees with satisfactory performance evaluations may progress through,
Yes.
which has been changed to employees will progress through the remaining steps within the grade.
Yes. Yes.
And so I think I remember Jake explaining to us that there really is no performance evaluation as far as if you just, and every January, you just move to the next, to the next, to the next. And
Yes. Yeah.
4.21.
You are correct in that. The enforcement of your performance is you're an at-will employee and you can be let go. So if you're not worthy of a merit increase, you're probably not going to fit for working here because you've got to be. So government agencies in particular, I've worked in the private sector in quite a while. Performance evaluations are generated automatically. Particularly as you get a larger staff and you start getting into a lot more worker rights issues. I think it's best practice. And I think, like I said, if you're not worthy of a merit increase after a year, then it's up to us as leadership team to decide whether it's not your fit. So, yeah.
So where is that specific text?
I still have the highlighted one.
See, I think it's page 42.
The page.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's 4.21 salary admin. I don't know, it's 44 on the line, but
Got it. Let's see it. I got it.
all right. 4.4 rest and meal period, make rest and meal periods. All non-exempt employees receive one paid 15-minute break during each 4 hours of working time.
This is the section I did not edit, so let me catch up to where you're.
So I pulled the L&I policy. I don't,
Oh, there we go.
so I didn't see,
Yeah, that's perfect. So non-exempt would be like Shelby up at the front desk who's hourly. So every 4 hours she will work, she's entitled to a 15-minute paid break. So she works 8 hours and she's
so
entitled,
that does not include her 30-minute lunch break,
which is not paid.
unpaid.
Correct. So you work an 8-hour day, or 8.5-hour day as it turns out. You get a half-hour paid, half-hour unpaid. Most people choose to do that as an hour-long lunch break.
That's maybe you can do too.
It doesn't ever explicitly say that's happening.
Excuse me?
It doesn't ever explicitly say that's happening,
For the lunch,
right? It just says one unpaid meal period.
almost make it clear, because it does change just to say.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I pulled the state L&I policy, so if you want that, you can have that.
What does that say? Does that say anything different from this?
Employees are allowed a paid rest period for duties for at least 10 minutes every 4 hours. So this is more than 10 minutes. That's good. Can't work more than 3 hours. Can't be required to work more than 3 hours without a rest break. Don't get to lunches. Lost the difference. Employees must be allowed a meal period when they work more than 5 hours a shift. Do that. Must be at least 30 minutes long and start between the second and fifth hours of the shift. Okay, so that's interesting. We could add in here that the unpaid lunch must be at least 30 minutes.
Sure.
That's a good addition.
Point four, business travel expenses.
Yeah, this is a new section. There's a lot of changes there. What do you got?
How do you account for travel on a timesheet?
Time-wise.
I would think that the question becomes what happens if a non-exempt staff travels?
Correct.
Because if an exempt staff travels, it's mute. And I'm trying to think of an example of when I've had an hour.
So I've got a 6-hour seminar in Tacoma, and
Right.
so we leave from here, right? I mean, that's technically what you do.
Right.
So do you pay them for their travel time?
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
the whole day and then the travel back? And so then does that turn into an overtime event, a time and a half?
Sure. They did that long over. Yeah, you have to pay them from the time they show up at work, which would be here.
Mhm.
Pick up the van until the time they return. Within reason. I mean, if they want to stay and check out Rusted Way, that's on them.
Right.
But I was thinking about travel, like get on an airplane and go to a conference or go down to Vancouver for the WRPA. I think of an example where I had an hourly staff do that. Because usually for the most part, they've been salaried staff.
Okay.
To do that, so,
I just.
Yeah.
It wasn't crystal clear, and so that's kind of what was going through.
yeah.
I mean, whether you're getting paid the whole time you're traveling as well.
Yeah, if I'm at a conference and it's in Vancouver this year, the WRPA conference, and I'm an hourly staff, you're gonna get paid for the time you're obviously at the conference. But the rules of, like I said, it's always been salaried staff. I've seen a lot of those, so that's.
All right.
How about 442? We talked about what I was trying to connect was insurance. So we say, exercise care, if you're driving a vehicle, this is your guidelines, exercise care, perform maintenance, follow instructions, safety standards, guidelines. Is there something that says you have to be on our insurance associated with that vehicle as a driver?
We've done a couple things in the policy thing. I forget which section this is in, but we've put in a policy that you have to submit a 3-year driving abstract before you get into one of our vehicles. And B, we've added to the training list that we have a defensive driving class that they, at least it doesn't do much, but if our insurance will cover them if we approve them. So they have to show a driver's license and all of that.
Yeah, so if Tom hires a new person, day one, they can drive.
As long as they have an approved abstract and they have a valid Washington state driving license.
And if they get in an accident, the insurance will cover them and the vehicle.
Yeah. The big thing for us, and I'm working with a couple HR buddies on this because there's some subjectivity to an abstract. Okay, you've got a moving violation 2 years ago, and plus 2 tickets. What's the threshold for approval? Right now in the policy, it just simply says it's the director's discretion. Eventually, when we have HR people, it'll become their discretion as far as approval.
Oh, I see. Okay, so I see 415 now. Okay.
Right, and so. I don't know what page 6, so the section so 4.58,
Here we go.
the second to last paragraph. Well, it is impossible to list every type of behavior.
Progressive discipline. Did we make changes in this? I don't remember working.
No, but I have a question.
Okay.
So while it is impossible to list every type of behavior that may be considered a serious offense, the employee conduct and work rules policy includes examples. Where is said policy?
Or do we carry some top here in a second?
63.
You're better to look for 4.59 and then go up 2 paragraphs.
Yeah.
I don't. That's a good question.
Okay.
Employee conduct and work rules policy.
I think,
Wondering if it's in here.
I mean,
Number
I think
in
it's
that.
kind of referring to itself here.
That's what I thought. It's going back.
Well, it could be,
So, but it needs to provide examples then.
Yeah,
Paragraph says, well, it's right, this policy provides.
Yeah, good point.
That's a question.
Good point.
well, and I also wonder if that paragraph adds any value. to Policy, I mean. Yeah, well, it's impossible with every company behavior.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I'm not sure we could just delete that paragraph and it wouldn't,
But then it's no longer sailor proof, Brian.
say look proof.
Mhm.
You with me, man?
Mhm. Funny.
We have,
Funny.
you have to write
I
policies to the
resemble- I
lowest
resemble
common
that.
denominator so that you can point to it when the simple man just cannot exercise his common sense.
I resemble that remark.
Yeah, Sam, right, that's simple, man. Yeah, I would
Highly doubt that, Matt.
I would recommend just deleting that paragraph. I don't know that it adds any value to the correctiveness of what it doesn't. Because
So
and I think,
then you're going to say that it's going to be subjective to your opinion, subjective to Tom's opinion?
yeah, I think for example, discipline is definitely to the discretion of the supervisor.
So
It's Tom's staff.
I think it's on, in all of these preceding pages.
I think you could say the
That
policy.
might start
manual.
while it is impossible to list every type of behavior.
And that's
That's
why
important.
you,
It's saying we've listed quite a few, but
Yeah.
not.
Everyone's an at-will employee, so it's certainly the discretion of the supervisor if they feel like their conduct is beyond.
I,
What was it, but is there any other
so
place?
I
in
have had this same argument, okay, or
Are we having a-
Or no, not an argument as far as like a debate. It's
Yeah,
not an argument where we're disagreeing with one another. It's nuance. Okay,
Okay.
so because I have said for years now, since 1997, Washington's an at-will state. Why are we having this discussion? Okay, it's an at-will state until you have an employee that pushes back and says, this was a hostile work environment. It was this, it was that.
Right.
So, well, we're an at-will state, we have to have documentation and we have to have parameters. So if we're citing that there's a policy that is going to provide a list,
Oh, so here, take this example, follow me here.
Yeah.
So we say this policy, we're assuming it's the same policy, we're just circular logic here. Whose examples of problems that may result in immediate suspension or termination of employment. Go back to page 55. Top of page 55.
What number is that? Yeah,
yeah,
Number 4.45, computer and email use.
oh, yeah. There we go.
So to me, when I read that, and I'm trying to follow this,
okay,
we say we prohibit displaying, downloading, emailing sexually explicit images, messages, cartoons, ethnic slurs, racial comments, off-color jokes, solicit each others for commercial ventures, religious, political cause, outside organization, non-business matters. Like this back here, it says examples of problems that may result in immediate suspension or termination of employment. Like that's one of those things to me
Yeah.
that may result in immediate suspension.
so maybe we say something rather than citing us a specific policy that we could say that are cited or illustrated
Yeah, like-
throughout this entire policy
So-
manual in various sections or whatever.
Yeah, 'cause
Rather than saying that it points to a particular document.
This
Right.
policy, we just change to say this policy manual
Sure.
includes examples of. That's it.
And it's the may part and these other things that say, like we say, unacceptable computer usage, so unacceptable.
So then I guess what it comes back to, Matt, is what you said, yes, subjective. So as long as Brian or whoever is
Right. So you
Tom
want to have
can go
the
back and say, this is what
Yes.
we're talking
Yeah,
about.
you want to have, right, you gotta have some flexibility because, right? This is all, these are all gray areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what,
Thank
do we
you
have,
for
do we have some, is there a section in here on drug use? What do we say there?
You must share.
That might be hard
I
to.
think you're going to the folks, I'm not sure it's in the staff thing. I don't know, he's talking. I'm not going to drugs.
Well, there's these and then there's the code of conduct,
Oh,
right, that we have.
4.5, sorry.
4.51.
Sorry.
.51.
You can talk a little bit.
No,
Okay,
no,
Yeah, so this, yeah, like, so that, like, A at the top of 59. Employee shall not be at work, drive a vehicle in district business, or operate any district equipment with any amount of alcohol or illegal or recreational drugs in their system, which would result in a confirmed positive test. Another example of may result in.
Right.
This one always brings
So I
up.
think just that language, like be massaged, that we're not pointing to a specific
No, it's
doctor.
great
or
point.
work.
Great
So
point.
that's, okay.
Yes, it's legal, but we don't want them operating machinery.
Yeah, I don't think the confirmed positive test is
Right, that seems like a little.
just period.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get if you tested or not, that doesn't matter, don't do it.
Anything else?
That's a license stripes.
Okay.
Convicted.
If there's, no, there's two sections to
I
it.
mean, unless, I mean, I'm
Oh,
so
yeah, there might be
that we've done this, and so that before so next month, we're going to approve this section, so I'm assuming there's going to be a.
Well-
Grammar and formatting final check.
I think the plan, well, the plan is whatever you guys decide the plan is. Right now, there was two small changes to what was presented, was the section 4.40, which was changing to say at least 30-minute lunch break. And then there was the changing of the to say policy manual instead of employee manual, sections 4.58. So if those are the only two changes, then we can approve this tonight with just those two change caveats and be done with these sections and focus on the next two sections next time.
So
Or,
just grammar and formatting aside then?
yeah, was there any formatting issues? And those don't speak to the content. Those are things that can be edited as we go. So, anyways, so your choice. If you guys are comfortable with it, then I would recommend, let's approve it with those two caveats of changes. If you're not comfortable, then we can kick it to June.
I will make a motion to approve the policy updates. Except for or including the grammatical ones that will be done.
Just the 2 seconds, yeah.
Okay, let me start again.
4.40 and 4.58.
I will make a motion to approve the policy updates of sections 1, 2, 3, and 4, including the addition of a 30-minute lunch, at least a 30-minute lunch in section 4.4, and the correction of policy manual in section 4.58. Period.
Did I get to all yours, Jennifer? It does.
4.58.
That work?
I'm good with that. I'll second that motion.
There we go.
It has been moved and seconded to approve sections 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the policy manual, including the addition of a minimum 30-minute or the minimum 30-minute lunch under section 4.4 and correction of the reference in 4.58 to just policy manual.
Yes.
There. All those in favor say aye.
Erica.
Matt, I.
Krista,
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes. Right.
Right. Couple other little items. Diamond dust, it's that time of year again, for the infield mix. We tried to get a quote prior to the meeting. We are promised I'll be able to get them from each to call. But we know the general amount this is going to be, which is last year was around 7,200. So to not have to push this to June to talk to you again about this, I'm asking for authorization to spend up to 8,000 for the diamond dust this year.
On the drive.
This is diamond dust. This is the actual infield material.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the overlay.
It's not turfus.
It's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is ground lava rock is what it is.
only the only people who make this.
Yeah. Okay,
Unfortunately,
I'll make a motion for authorize the expenditure of up to $8,000 for Diamond infield mix.
We'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve expenditure not to exceed $8,000 for diamond dust infield mix. All those in favor say aye.
Erica,
Matt,
Krista, aye. Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes.
The, Carrie and I were talking earlier about the finance and the parks policy, which are the big two parts of the policy book. Likely gonna have to be broken up over multiple months, because there's just a lot of material that we're gonna want to talk about. One of them is gonna be the signing authority for some of these things, because we get into this $27 million pool. It'll be a lot easier for you guys and for us to be able to. So the signing authority limits is an issue, but for now, appreciate can get to shopping. Last but not least, and this was the last edition. Realizing that the board had the decision whether or not to proceed with the CD or not, the issue of the water supply to the site, which is one of the bigger challenges. We've had several meetings on this. They gave us a bill from down, but a quote for $135,000. This was in December. At the time, they didn't have the money because the bond was nowhere near being paid out. Then we went on pause. This is one of the bigger issues, one of the more critical issues to get going, to get them to work. So this was going to be an ad service whenever we do it. I think we're close enough to the funds at this point that I think it's time to let Davido get to work and get this water issue flowing.
that 135 is gonna be spread out over.
Yes, yeah, this is not a invoice. And I sent you guys the support document, but at this point, I'm asking for a recommendation to get them. What's that?
Did we get that memo?
Friday or Monday?
Yeah. It's in the packet. Oh, it was? Okay.
And is this
Oh,
just,
it was, I think it's after the packet. I think it was a supplement to the packet. Because we got this,
Yes.
it's because
Got an addition.
after I talked to ARC, I realized how important it was to get them working, and then we added this last minute.
is this,
Got it. I've got it. Thank you.
does this put a shovel in the ground?
It gets them doing this is also.
Davido doing the layout, design,
trying to figure out how to make it work.
how we're gonna pull it off.
Because the other thing, and actually this helps our argument earlier too. Carrie and I caught up on the numbers of our DOC grant, the second one. We still have $13,000 of unspent money that has to be for DD, can't be CD. We clarified that this week too. So that either will support
That's really,
there.
no, I like doing this. I like getting more down the road with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Davido also has CDD work in this, because they have to do some design work is what they're doing. Bottom line is, this is a paramount, it needs to happen. This is not we need to do it. We don't have to do it tonight, but I would suggest that we.
So what's you said the line item is 135,000?
Yeah, and I confirmed that this was still the number with Paul, and he said it was $135,525, and this would get Davido.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I would be inclined to authorize it.
Yes.
Can I just
Okay.
clarify one thing?
But
We did just receive another bill for 23,000 from ARC, so that 13,000.
Was it indeed that DD in it?
I don't know.
It must have, because that's what they're authorized to do.
remember now there's 100,000 in additional design bandwidth from that
Yeah.
grant. So keep that in play. So I'll make a motion to authorize not to exceed 135,525 the design work to address water supply to the ARC.
Oh, second that.
Not to exceed 135,525
Yeah.
design work to,
Well, it's not just design work, it's the whole thing.
yeah, sorry, the project to supply water to the ARC site.
Jennifer writing faster or Carrie typing faster?
Yeah.
It's a race.
It's a mess. Mine too.
We end up with 200,000 in storage.
The other thing this does, we budgeted $60,000 this year to replace.
It's right.
Good.
Now we need to authorize it as an ad
Nice to
service.
talk.
Yes.
Down and
It
see.
is a bad service.
Does it make sense?
Can we wrap that in as part of the whole? Do we just go ahead?
Was there like an Albert's
Do we
number?
just do it?
No, that's the one that's sitting. Yeah,
That's our only water source right now.
right.
That goes out.
Well, all the work's gonna be there. And then the pipe that's going to.
Approve?
Yeah.
But he said they're always.
It'll be side by side.
Request.
And part of that's gonna need to be to close that one fence.
Project.
Okay.
Keep the kids off the top.
Is it included in the description?
To bringing
That's what they said, it's a feeding area,
Oh, really?
like hitting the tank. No,
That's not good.
Where
Yeah.
is,
it's gonna, you know that service road that goes through,
To exceed 135.
the trees between the existing tank and that service road. So it's gonna be a nice, big, attractive new open.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just a security thing left to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you need object of design.
Anyway.
It's a request from A.
But those tanks are gonna actually be in that area. I'm thinking about it, doesn't seem very big
Right there.
between the actual baseball fields
To the site.
and.
No,
Oh, top.
no, this is the top wall of the woods,
Yeah, where the tank, between
where
the,
the existing tank is.
where the cross country.
Well ahead up there, right?
The wellhead is
to link your laptop to our Zoom host computer
Okay,
prior
We got.
to.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to read it? Okay.
Sure.
I made a motion to approve an ad service request from ARC to bring water service to the SWPRD site in an amount not to exceed $135,525.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you.
may I have a second?
Here's the second.
Has been moved and seconded to approve an ad service request from ARC to bring water service to the SWARC site in an amount not to exceed $135,525. All those in favor say aye.
Erica.
Krista, I.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it.
I
Motion passes.
Generally, there should be an email that's sent out tomorrow with this, and I will send that to you.
Look if I can log it in.
Yeah, we generally get a reminder the morning we should do about the.
Or if the bugs go on, figure out.
Yeah, are we done?
We are done.
All right, we are adjourned at 8:30.
Since I messed up that sheet, are you gonna?
I'll go print that out.
Okay, and there's one number that doesn't match here.
And yeah, we're back to the.